Did I tell you about Thornton Dial? Levent Isaac and Nellie Mae Rowe. Sam the Dot Man and Beanie T. Carter. All he did was try to paint harder. Had the flag man live next door until he died on my kitchen floor. Sam Doyle and Adolph Flea. There's some more, but that's it, man. That's like dropping like 18 people.
You're going to take that into the studio?
We are the studio. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Matt Ledbetter with the House of Folk Art, and we have a special guest here today, Brian Sieveking, and he has been collecting for over 40 years. He started collecting when you were, what's the youngest age you were collecting?
The first piece I ever got was, I didn't think of myself as a collector, was a Burlon Craig that I found at a flea market. And it was underneath somebody's table. I was about, here's how long ago it was. I was about 13 or 14, and it was out at Happy's Flea Market. Anybody who's in Roanoke knows what that was. And I saw this face jug, and I was just like, that's amazing. And I went over, and clearly the guy didn't care about it because it was under the table. And I said, what do you want for this? And he said, I'll trade you that for a carton of cigarettes.
So $14.
And not only could you go buy a carton of cigarettes
When
at
you were
14, but I
Nice.
think the carton of cigarettes was like $4.50. I think it was
wow.
like it was just before, it was like a couple years before they started pushing the taxes up on them.
Right.
And so that was, but I really started collecting with Howard Finster.
Right.
I drove him back down
So
to
that
Paradise
day-
Garden.
That day from Virginia Tech, you got connected,
Right.
and boom.
Right.
And then did you go from Howard to?
I went from Howard to James Harold Jennings, from James Harold Jennings to Georgia Blizzard, and then I went back down to Howard's, and we did a project with Howard down at the Garden, and that's when I got in touch with Roger Manley, and he told me how to get to everybody in Alabama and Mississippi. Yeah.
So you came up in a time where these artists were alive and creating the art. So now we're in 2025, and you're hearing the buzz now about outsider art, self-taught art, and you're thinking to yourself, I want to get into this. I just don't know how. You might be intimidated by it. So we're going to try to talk you through that. And I know when I say this, Brian is going to elevate this. I think one of the first things that you should do is you should go to a live auction that is specializing in outsider art. Go, because it's not a museum. I would say go to a museum, but there's nothing like going into an auction house, touching the item, picking it up, turning it upside down, and then in a few hours, you can own this item. And you're going to, if it's a specialty auction that has 500 pieces of outsider art, you really are in one sitting. You are going to, and whether it's me, whether it's Slotin or whoever's doing it, I'm not trying to pitch our auction really. I'm just saying, go to an auction that specializes in this, and you will come out of there with a few names on your list. And naturally, everybody wants a Sam Doyle. But if you're getting into it, are you going to pay $30,000 for your first piece of art?
Trailer.
Yeah. You don't have to start with Bill Traylor, Sam Doyle, Levent. Actually, Levent Isaac, you could handle that one. But I was trying to go into my song there. So that's what happened to me. That's what got me into it. I went to Slotin's auction and I walked around, and I didn't know who Purvis Young was. I didn't know who Howard Finster was. All I knew was the drinks were free, and it was Friday night, and we were having a great time walking around looking. But I left there thinking to myself, it grew on me. I mean, little did I know that the Purvis Youngs grew on me.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
My advice, if you're thinking, how do I do this? I think you need to look up who has the next outsider art auction, if it's a live event, and go to it and get the buzz.
Yeah, you can see a whole lot of stuff, first of all, which is absolutely important. Plus, you can meet people who are already collecting it, and they will talk to you.
Oh, they will.
I think something that's really important, and I don't think this is just true of outsider art, there's this idea that's pushed mainly by television shows and movies, that the art world is this really elitist, hoity-toity place where everybody has their nose in the air and everybody just wants to make you feel stupid. I'm not saying you'll never run into anybody like that, but they're
Right.
far more rare than you think, and just don't be intimidated. Go, I mean, I'll never forget the first time I went to New York as a young artist and wanted to go to galleries, and so many of the galleries, because this is when Soho was still the center of the art world, and they were on, like, the 2nd floor, the 3rd floor of a building, and you had to push the button and be rung up. And I just found that utterly intimidating. Like, I
Right.
was like, "What? Does that mean I have to buy
I
something when
have
I
to
go up there?"
announce
Is
myself.
it Yeah, but no, people who collect art are interested in art, and they will talk to you, and they will communicate with you, and you can learn a lot. And, start small. Don't feel like you have to, make your presence known, and,
Mm-mm.
just look at a lot of stuff, read a lot of stuff, develop an appreciation and a knowledge of it, and then figure out what your budget is and stick
Right.
to it. Don't feel like the only stuff that's worthwhile is the really expensive stuff, because it wasn't always really expensive stuff.
Right.
And I remember when bill trailers were 5 grand. I
Right.
didn't have 5 grand, but I remember when they
Yeah.
were 5
And now
grand.
they're 105
Yeah,
grand.
I mean, so you buy what you like, buy what you love, you know, buy
After
buy
you
what you can live with.
get a base knowledge
Yeah, but
of
yeah,
of the subject.
absolutely.
N and we can talk about this. Know the difference in a cutout and a carving, right? Just because they cut it out on a jigsaw and painted it, that doesn't mean that they carved it. So there's a difference. So just little bits and pieces of the terminology. Um, is it an artist-made frame and painted by the artist? Or is it a piece of plywood that was mounted in a frame by a frame shop after it was bought? So there's like little things you can pick up here and
Yeah.
there that'll give you more confidence. Um, Outside of going to the auctions, go to shows. Find a folk art show. So, I mean, I don't really know a lot of them, but Farrington is still active. That's in Chapel Hill, or that's in Farrington Village, near Chapel Hill. Kentuck is still going, right?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
The Outsider Art Fair. I feel like the Outsider Art Fair intimidates me.
Well, the Outsider
That
Art
would
Fair
be like the pinnacle. I think
is
you should
yeah.
get ready. You probably should be intimidated by
You'll
that
probably run
one.
into some people with their noses in the air,
Yeah.
but that doesn't mean
Nothing against them.
everybody's like. I
Right.
mean, if you're in New York, go to the Outsider Art Fair. It's amazing. I mean,
So,
but I don't know that if that would be my first.
yeah, I don't okay, but that's good that we're telling you this. Nothing against the Outsider Art Fair. For 2 years now, me and he's 11 now, but when he was 8, we were gonna go to the Outsider Art Fair, but COVID was really
Mhm,
active in North Carolina, so it was like, "Never mind, no, we're not gonna fly." So then the next year, and so we advertise in Raw Vision every
mhm.
quarter, so I got my Raw Vision rep saying, are y'all going to the Outsider Art Fair? This is the 2nd year now. Yeah, I think we're gonna try to make it." We didn't go last year. I really want to go this year, and I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little intimidated because I auction this stuff off. I'm supposed to know everything, but I don't. And so when I get there, I I'm not intimidated because I'm just, we're gonna go with the flow, but at the same time, it's like, who am I not gonna know?
Well, but don't I mean,
You
you're
know?
never gonna know everybody,
Right,
and the other thing is, like, my specialty is Southeastern, outsider art, folk art,
right,
pottery. So, like you say, I've been doing this for 40 years, and I've been to the Outsider Art Fair 3 or 4 times, and there's always numerous artists there who I don't know who they are. I don't
right.
and sometimes it's really cool stuff, and that's great. So always be open to new things. And although I do think that if you're gonna be a collector, it's a good idea to give yourself some limitations, not just as far as budget is concerned, but also sort of say, I'm going to concentrate on like my main concentration is artists in Appalachia.
Right.
And I'm not gonna say I never break out of there because I do, but I try. When I first started collecting, I would go to an auction and there would be like these Native American mystery paintings and stuff, and I'd be
Yeah.
sitting in the back going, "That sounds like a good price." But I didn't know anything about them,
Mhm.
and let me tell you, I could still lose a tremendous amount of money investing in
Yeah.
indigenous American art because I don't know enough about it,
Right.
you know?
Yeah. And so so we've only named 3. What are some other shows?
Well,
Mini Day,
yeah, I mean, and
Mini Atkins,
I haven't been down to Finsterfest, but
Finster
there's
Fest.
Finsterfest.
So that's 5.
And most of these are attached to institutions that do folk art shows.
Right.
Like, go to more if you're close to Morehead, Kentucky, go to the Folk Art Center in Morehead, Kentucky.
Yeah.
You know, go to there's history doesn't Hickory the Hickory
Yeah,
Museum
the
always has
Hickory have the
stuff
folk
up,
art museum.
you
Yep,
know,
yep, yep.
and an awful lot of larger museums now have you know, there's a big folk art collection in the Philadelphia Museum of Art. I
Right.
mean, you know, which is
So
blue chip.
the shows are good if it's not a dealer show. Like Mini Day is good because you actually get to meet the artist.
Yeah, yeah.
And, what I love Denzel Goodpasture. He is I'm infatuated with his canes, and so I heavily collect his canes. I don't have the joy of ever have met him and walked into the show that he was at when he had 30 canes
Yeah.
behind him and got to talk to him. But you'll get to do that when you go to these shows. And so then that brings us to the next step. How do you get more knowledge, go to the museums
Yeah.
and
And read magazine, you know, read Raw Vision.
take Raw Vision magazine, take, man, what are the other ones? Are there any other ones? If you will get your register for Slotin, he'll send you a
Oh, yeah,
catalog.
yeah.
That is
Oh, the
one of
catalogs are
yeah,
wonderful.
the print catalogs for auctions are some of the best.
Yeah, Crocker Farm just put out an auction a catalog for a Tennessee pottery collection that's extraordinary. I mean, it's
Yeah. And they're hefty. They're like $60 or something.
I'm
Did you get it?
sure. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
they sent them to me,
Yeah, yeah.
but
Well, you
but
could
they're
be
really good. I mean, they're
they
great auction
they
catalogs.
don't send them to me. Slotin does, though. I get 2, actually.
Yeah.
I don't know why I get 2. I think I get my mom's. I don't know why she used my address. That's weird. So, we we need more collectors, and I totally understand that if you're looking at this stuff and you're like, "I kinda like that, but I don't know anything about it." We're here for you. So, chime in and comment and ask questions, and, maybe next time we'll talk about it. But I highly recommend, if we're talking from an investment standpoint, self-taught art and outsider art. Right now, it's like Bitcoin when it was, $100. Even when Bitcoin was $3,000 and we all thought it was high. I think that's where outsider art is right now.
But you can look at your and enjoy your outsider art.
Yeah, I mean, it's obtainable.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
obtainable. There was a time I've only had this auction for 5 years, and, the Met called me and said, "We wanna bid on this piece of Thomas Day furniture that you have." I was like, "This is great." So I took the information. I think they won it because we contacted them after the auction. But as things slowed down and we got off of this Thomas Day, right? I said, "Can you please put me in touch with your outsider art division?" And this was 5 years ago. They didn't have one.
Yeah.
And I think they do now. Okay, 5
I know
years
they
ago.
have pieces, yeah.
Yeah, 5 years ago, the woman on the phone, they had just spent thousands of dollars. They're about to wire the money. "I'm sorry, we do not have an outsider art division." We're on the ground level of something.
Oh,
And
yeah, yeah.
and you can You can spend $800 and get a Jimmy Lee Sudduth right now. When every museum in the country, and we're talking about hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of museums, wake up and say, wow, we need a piece of his work. We need a Jimmy Lee Sudduth on our wall. When every museum in the country starts waking up and going after that, they're going to become unattainable.
Oh, yeah, and it's an interesting thing. I mean, you were talking about earlier about the first Folk Fest. One of the things that just amazed me, I think it was when I went to the second or third Folk Fest, and I walked through and noticed that a bunch of the dealers didn't have any Finsters and didn't have any Tollivers. And I never would have dreamed that there would be a day where every one of those people in the Atlanta area wouldn't have had, at the very least, like 15 or 20 of Howard's cutouts
Right.
and 5 or 6 Tolliver paintings, but they were sparse. And that was 25 years ago.
Right.
You know?
Well, I still think we're on the budding beginning of this entire thing. And really, because when going back to Ron Causey, because he taught me so much in this industry. He said art had to be sold, 5 to 7 times before it started to realize anything that it's worth. And who knows if it's 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, whatever. But basically what he was saying was the very first time it gets sold is from artist to collector. Well, 9 times out of 10, they visit each other 10 times in the life. So now this collector ends up with 50. So when his collection comes to auction, now there's 50 Benny Carters up. That's only the second time it's ever been sold.
Yep.
The prices are going to stay down here. The third time it gets sold is many years later. Those 50 went to 12 different buyers, so they each have 4. Now it's coming out 5 at a time. Now the fourth time it gets sold, those 4 get sold to 1, 2, 3, 4 people. Now there's only 1 Benny Carter in each collection, and that's about the 4th or 5th time it gets sold.
Yep.
Right now, you're still seeing 30 R.A. Millers. It's only the second time they've been sold.
Yep.
They purchased them directly from R.A. Miller for $5 multiple times a year, and they ended up with 100. And when they come to auction, they're getting sold 10 at a time in one lot. Lot 76, 10 R.A. Millers. Lot 77, 10 R.A. Millers. We are still under the curve here. I mean, I'm not a mathematician, but I think I said that right.
Yeah.
We are at the ground floor of what this thing is going to turn into. I can see R.A. Millers going to 15,000. I really can. I mean, why not? It's one of the greatest American stories out there. He really was. He thought he was creating. Now, he knew he was creating art. He created thousands of these pieces. He thought he was creating the next thing. I mean, Blow Oscar. I mean, he knew he was creating art, and Blow Oscar is still an original thought. So,
Do you know who Blow Oscar was?
Yeah. Tell him that story.
Well, as he told it to me, Blow Oscar was his neighbor Oscar, who would drive by his house and blow his horn at him.
Yeah.
When he was out in the yard. And
so he made all these signs for Blow Oscar, and he would hang them up for Blow Oscar to see. If you are getting, I'm going to go ahead and tell you to do this. If you're new to this collecting field and you want to know what to collect, I'm going to give you a task. Buy yourself an R.A. Miller. Any auction house who has a section in their auction of outsider art is going to have an R.A. Miller. And right now, they're very obtainable. They're going to be anywhere from $40 to $300. And, as far as I know, there's no fakes. I haven't seen a fake R.A. Miller.
I don't know
especially a cutout. So, but that is another thing to talk about. How do you know what you're buying is real? now's a good time because if you're buying it from especially a reputable dealer or auction company, we're getting these items directly from the original source who got it from the artist.
Yeah.
And so it's a great time. When these collections are coming out, 90% of the collection was bought directly from the artist. So there's not enough time for the
and
fraudulent market to come in. So, and that's part of it, man. I mean, they're faking Benny Carters now. I mean, I never thought I'd see that day. I mean, why would you fake a Benny Carter? His record's like $7,000. Like, you're working really hard at that. I mean, those are a lot of little taxis. So it is a lot to learn. Don't be intimidated. Start with R.A. Miller. All right, list your top 5 books, and then we're going to end this.
Well, if you could get a whole, and you may want to go to the library to get them because they're expensive, but those Souls Grown Deep books are really, really pretty amazing.
Yep.
Bit of scholarship.
They're 599 pages.
Yeah.
And there's 2 volumes.
Yeah, there's 2 volumes.
And I don't know if it's out of print yet, but when you could buy it just on demand, they were like $100 a book, which ain't bad. I mean, don't drop it though.
Yeah.
Don't have your lap at an angle reading it and fall asleep and drop it because you'll bust the spine.
And a lot of libraries have copies of that. I mean, it's like you said, the Baking in the Sun catalog, I think, is a major piece. The book that either Tom Patterson or the book that John Turner wrote about Howard Finster, they're both told to biography. They were both very much in contact with Howard, and they're full of pictures. Wish you told me this before we started talking.
I know, right?
I have them all written down.
I know you've got like 100 books.
The Corcoran catalog of that first African American folk art from the early 80s is a major piece. The Encyclopedia of Folk Art that the Rosenacks put out in the early 90s is still a really good starting point to have a whole lot of work. It's all, every entry has a picture, and there's a lot of artists in there.
Yeah.
But, you could also, the internet is a really good place for, go to the the National Museum of American Art, the Smithsonian site. They have a tremendous collection of folk and outsider art at what is now the Smithsonian Museum of American Art. And they have a pretty in-depth listing of artists with biographies of a lot of them and photographs of a lot of them and pictures of the art that's in their collection.
Yeah. And that's one thing. If you know one name to type in, like if you'll just Google Jimmy Lee Sudduth, what pops up on the first page of Google is a couple dealers that represent some of his art. And when you go to their website, there's a couple of them, and they have a list of about 60 artists that you can click on, and then you'll see, and a lot of them say there's no pieces available at this time. Because some of these dealers have been around for 30 years, and the internet's been here, I don't know, 25 of those 30, but at least you'll get the names. And that's what, once you're getting the list of books so you can get the list of names. Once you have the list of names, you can find out, what am I getting into? I mean, if you have in the same list Jimmy Lee Sudduth, R.A. Miller, Benny Carter, Levant Isaac, Bill Traylor, right? You need to know prices realized of all these. And when you find out the prices realized of Bill Traylor, you're going to be shocked. And this is how the industry is, but it's readily available to you. So know what you're getting into, look it up. And, Live Auctioneers, if you sign up with them, you can go to their prices realized, as long as you understand that it's a real, that it's not a fake. And you got to read closely. And in the paragraph, it'll say, y'all need to be paying, you need to be paying us for this information, by the way. In the paragraph, it will say, in the manner of, after Bill Traylor, in the manner of Bill, it's fake. Cancel. Once you read that,
Yeah, if it's a $500 bill trailer, it's fake.
Yeah, exactly. So, you gotta know who you're buying from, and if you're looking up prices, realize you gotta understand who's the real auction companies that are doing the real ones and not. We've never sold a bill trailer, so you're not gonna find it at Ledbetter. One day, we're gonna. Do you own a bill trailer?
I do not own a bill trailer.
Okay.
I wish I did, but I do not.
One of these days. So, I think we've put you on the right track to start your collection, and then after you get the sense of what is what, then go after what you like. And, what this face jug might not be your cup of tea, but the next alkaline glaze simple face jug might. So then at that point, you just gotta go with what you like and what you don't mind decorating with. So, all right, Brian, that was fun, and, leave us a comment if we helped you guys with anything on the collecting side of outsider art. We're the House of Folk Art, and we'll see you next time.